The smell of burnt cannabis alone no longer justifies a police search of a vehicle. The Illinois Supreme Court rules. That's right. The smell of burnt cannabis alone is insufficient to justify a warrantless police search of an automobile, the Illinois Supreme Court ruled on Thursday. The ruling stems from a 2020 traffic stop of Ryan Redmond, who police said had improperly secured registration on his license plate and was traveling 73 miles per hour in a 70 miles per hour zone on Interstate 80 near Quad Cities in Western Illinois. 3 miles an hour? Are you guys freaking serious? You guys are pulling people over. You guys must be bored out there. State Trooper Hayden Combs said he smelled a strong odor of burnt cannabis coming from the car, prompting him to search the vehicle, where he found 1 gram of cannabis inside the center console in a plastic baggie, according to the ruling. Good. Shout out to plastic baggies, you guys. The officer said he didn't smell marijuana on Redmond, who denied smoking in the car and didn't see any signs of impairment. And Redmond didn't produce his license or registration, and the officer said he gave evasive answers. But he told the officer he was traveling on I-80 from Des Moines, Iowa, to where he lived in Chicago, along what police called a known drug corridor, you guys. Prosecutors charged Redmond with unlawful possession of cannabis, even though state lawmakers legalized the possession of small amounts of cannabis beginning in 2020. And drivers are not allowed to smoke in their vehicles, you guys, in the great state of Illinois. But the state Supreme Court ruled 6-0 that without other suspicious circumstances, such as a driver failing to stop for some time or a bud in plain view, the search was unjustified, you guys. In a quote, "The laws on cannabis have changed in such a drastic way as to render the smell of burnt cannabis standing alone insufficient to provide probable cause for a police officer to search a vehicle without a warrant," Justice Scott Neville Jr. wrote. And the justices cited a prior case in stating that, in quotes, "cannabis should be regulated in a manner similar to alcohol, where possession is generally lawful but remains unlawful under certain circumstances." Courts from some other states, such as Kansas, Massachusetts, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania, have also ruled that the smell of burnt pot by itself does not justify a search. But the court cautioned that police can still consider the smell of burnt marijuana as part of the general circumstances that may justify a search. The decision runs counter to a prior ruling from before Illinois legalized pot, you guys. And so basically what they're trying to say in all of this is that basically is the smell of burnt cannabis is not probable cause, but they are saying that the smell of fresh cannabis, you guys, is still probable cause, and that is going to be dealt with in a later ruling. And thanks again to the Cole Memo for sharing all this information with us. We do appreciate all your work that you're doing out there in the great state of Illinois, Cole. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
All that work for a gram?
And 3 miles over the speed limit? That's not speeding.
Well, he did break more than one law at the same time. So, like, put your tag on properly, slow down a little bit, maybe tuck your weed a little better. That's a gram. Toss that shit out the window. I'll get you another one later. Come on, bro.
So if you get caught with fresh weed, or is this freshly?
See, I'm a little confused by that too. You know, and maybe Cole can chime in on something in this chat or whatnot. But yeah, that's to my understanding is that fresh marijuana they are saying is a different, because I guess it's a different aroma. I don't know how they're coming up with this.
Is it like freshly smoked, or are you talking about like
like freshly harvested? You know, like when it's like moist weed.
Terps.
How the fuck are you supposed to get your shit home from the dispensary?
The terpenes, which by the way are totally legal, right? It's the cannabinoids that aren't.
Mm-hmm.
You should look a legal precedent set by my friend and normal director of the Pittsburgh chapter, Patrick Nightingale, Esquire.
Mm-hmm.
And there is legal precedent in Pennsylvania that basically says that the smell of fresh cannabis is not probable cause. Not probable cause.
Mm-hmm.
That's the smell of fresh cannabis. Burnt cannabis would assume that you're smoking in the car. Now you're consuming on a Department of Transportation road. That's probably, going to get you in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mark, because we know there's a big difference when you open a bag and smell that smell and when you smell what it smells like when you smoke it.
I'm just wondering who all rolls around with fresh weed. Like, you have to let that shit dry for 7 to 10 days and just.
Jason, you're missing the point. We're talking about smoked and not smoked weed. When we're talking about fresh cannabis, they're just referring to.
No, they're not. No, they're not. No, Jenny, you're wrong
listen
about
for
that.
a second, guys. Listen, I got the story on this. Okay.
Okay.
So there was
Dr. Mark,
a sting operation by the Pennsylvania State Police that was basically right down the road from a dispensary where my wife used to shop. And when you get out of the dispensary, the first thing you want to do is crack your thing and open it and smell it, right? Well, when you do that in a car in Pennsylvania, you've just violated the law, and they were pulling people over because their cars smelled like fresh cannabis. But it was just totally like a scam because, again, they were right down the road from a dispensary. They were following cars out of the dispensary parking lot and just betting that, they probably opened their thing to smell it, and now they're violating the law, and they got in trouble.
Interesting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mark.
I don't know if
Patrick Nightingale, who's a great cannabis attorney in the state of Pennsylvania, who's the head of the Pittsburgh chapter of NORML. His case was basically precedent that's been all throughout the country now about the smell of fresh cannabis not being means to basically pull someone over or having them get out of the car or anything like that. But the other thing that's crazy is, again, we all know that what makes cannabis smell the way it does has nothing to do with the cannabinoids. It's the terpenes and the thiols and everything else that's in there. Those molecules are completely legal.
Well, Cole from the Cole memo says, I can explain. The law says that the containers must be, in quotes, odor proof. And this is why raw cannabis can still get you in trouble. See, it's raw cannabis. This is what I'm saying. Raw cannabis.
Yo,
Jason,
how are they even gonna get to that point where they have probable cause to even be smelling this shit? Like, this is just opening the door for harassment right now.
I think it is too, and like I think this is weird, backwards, but at the same time, like, it is Illinois, and they do backwards ass shit, like pull people over for 3 miles over the speed limit. But you know what I mean?
It sounds like, it sounds like in some ways they're closing the door for harassment, in that if you smoked in the car last week, you're probably not going to be able to use that as probable cause. But I'm guessing that their reasoning for saying if there's a strong odor of unsmoked cannabis in the car, they're going to assume that maybe they're about to find a 10-pack in the trunk that you just picked up that are taken somewhere else. Which is unfortunate, and it's bullshit. But I'm so glad that Dr. Mark is here with his advanced degree. I'm sorry it took all that to explain to Jason what fresh cannabis is.
I'm not sold on that. I'm not sold on that.
I'm going to put my head through something.
I can't wait. It's great. Make sure you do it while we have it on camera.
I'm going to. Oh, God.
It's like
employees of cannabis grows, when they drive home from work, smell like cannabis.
They smell like fresh cannabis. I agree with that. With that. Anyone in the trim room, they're going to smell like fresh cannabis, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
They may not have any cannabis on them, but they certainly smell like it.
They smelling loud and proud.
Yeah, there's restaurants in Denver that said, if you smell like cannabis, we don't want to serve you. It's like...
Yeah, that is.
I love you guys.
Those are the kind of restaurants I walk in, fart, and walk out.
Oh, man.